transition pictures for Impressionist painter Pierre-Auguste Renoir, who died at the age of 78 in the year 1919, and who was the most brilliant artist. Apparently when he was young, his parents thought he was a way better singer than he was painter, but they couldn't afford to send him to any kind of singing school or whatever, so he thought, oh, okay, I'll just take up painting then. And he started painting on porcelain and stuff, and then went over to do these amazing paintings with the dappled light and the luminescent skin. He did thousands of paintings, and I think one sold not that long ago for about $78 million. Meanwhile, there were times in his life when he couldn't even afford paint. He had no money at all. Couldn't afford food, couldn't afford paint, but he kept on painting. Later on in life, he got really extreme rheumatoid arthritis to the point where he had to be pushed around everywhere. And he couldn't pick up a brush, but he kept on painting. His nurse, or whoever was looking after him, put it in his hand and let him paint with it that way. He couldn't stop painting. That was his soul's path and his passion and all he ever wanted to do. So he died in the end of pneumonia, actually. But the last few years of his life were extremely uncomfortable and painful. And I thought I'd go and take a look at what happened after he died. And it was quite beautiful, but also unexpected. I went into the area that I always seem to see when I do these pictures. Not always, but most times. That cave type environment. It's always metaphorical, it's symbolic of something. It's not an actual cave, of course. And I looked around and he wasn't there. But what was interesting about this particular set of pictures was that they were completely reversed. I have an idea of the architecture now. Lots of changes can happen depending on the person we're talking about, but generally there is an arrival area, a wandering around, why am I not meeting Jesus, where is everybody kind of area, and then the tunnel that they feel almost magnetically drawn to climb, and then at the end there's the dome and the white light and so on. In this particular instance though, the tunnel which is normally over there was over here. Everything was back to front, a mirror image of what there normally is. I wondered if that was how he saw the world, or because he's a painter, he's reflecting the world rather than actually seeing it head on. I don't know, but it was really, really interesting. And he eventually just saunters in. There's no sudden arrival. He just strolls down this little path into this cave area as though he's coming back from a Sunday walk, a stroll. He just saunters. And he's totally in his own head. He doesn't acknowledge where he is. He doesn't wonder what it's all about. He's not curious about it. He just ambles past. Goes across the cave. Doesn't register where he is. Doesn't give it a second thought. Carries on, goes up the tunnel. Now, interestingly, towards the beginning of the tunnel, he held onto the wall and said, I can't make it up here. I have rheumatoid arthritis. And then, when nothing happened, he realized, oh, I don't have rheumatoid arthritis. My legs are fine. Oh, okay. And that was it. And then he carried on. Ambling. Sunday stroll. It was all so easy and comfortable. No shock element or surprise element. Just, oh, okay. Here I am. And on you go. Unremarkable, actually. Almost boring. When he gets to the top of the tunnel, there is the dome I always see. And he stands and he looks at it. But even though there is that current kind of pulling him towards it, he resists. Not because he's resistant to going in, but because he appears to be looking at something else. It's like, yeah, okay, I know I gotta go, but... And he just stood there. So I did something I've actually never done before. I tried to get inside of him. So like make my energy coincide with his energy so that I might be able to look through his eyes. And when I looked through his eyes at this cave with the dome in it, there was no cave and there was no dome. There were rolling hills. There was blue sky. There was tall grass directly ahead of him. And I came out again, I looked around, and there is the dome. I go back in again, and there is the same scene. Rolling hills, blue sky, tall grass. And he begins to walk through the grass. Interestingly, the ground slopes downwards, but the grass remains the same height. And the more he walks, the deeper he goes into the grass. And eventually, he disappears in among the swaying blades. And as he does so, it was almost like there was a breeze came out of nowhere and just swept across the top of the grass, just to emphasize that he'd gone. It was beautiful. I came out of him again, and he was stepping into the dome. The him in front of me was going the usual way. The him in his own consciousness had chosen his own way to go, putting a spin on it which was entirely pleasurable to him. Same end, but he'd framed it the way he wanted it to be. And it struck me so forcibly in this moment that maybe we have that choice. Maybe this doesn't have to be a bleak crossing over and then just into oblivion. If we follow our soul's path the way he did, if we live up to our purpose, and if we fulfill the remit with which we were sent to earth in this time, if we do that, and we live life to the fullest, and we work on our wholeness, and we do all those sort of things, do we end up in a position where we can choose our own end? He seemed completely intoxicated with his own thoughts and ideas and visions, to the exclusion of everything on the outside. In his head, rolling hills and tall grass, and a gentle breeze. That, to me, is heavenly. That, to me, is the perfect end. Restful, completely in sync with the calling of the soul, reassuring, beautifully paced, no fuss, no fighting, just complete compliance, but viewing it in our own terms. I sat and just stared at the wall for ages after that, wondering if he was lucky that that's how it ended, or whether he was simply showing us the way. Live a full life. Fulfill the remit of your soul. Do what you're here to do. And that's how it ends. Perfectly. Perfectly. Magical. Absolutely magical. And that was Pierre-Auguste Renoir. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, as always. Subscribe, like, share if you would. Follow me on Twitter, @CashPeters, that'd be great. Otherwise, I'll see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.